just wanted to talk a little bit about some movies that I watched recently. Maybe you've seen them, not all of them are new. Maybe you have an opinion on them. If so, let me know. First and foremost, though, I recently finished watching Monk, the TV show. My fiance and I started at the beginning, watched it all the way through, and then we watched the new movie as well. Wasn't a huge fan of the new movie, to be honest. By the way, just before we get into this, if you're somebody who likes to avoid spoilers for things, I'm gonna be just talking, so I'll talk about spoilers and all of that as well, for all of these films, and Monk as well. Now, Monk is a show I grew up watching with my parents when I was a kid. My parents loved Monk. My mom has all the DVD box sets of Monk, but I hadn't watched it in years. First and foremost, it's a fantastic show. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. It would be a 5 out of 5, but the last 2.5 seasons or so, there's sort of a noticeable decline in quality in the writing. Monk's OCD becomes far less consistent. Whereas I thought early in the show, the first 3.5, 4 seasons or so, especially the first 2 seasons, it handles Monk's mental illness very well. It sets very strict rules. It's extremely debilitating, and you see consequences of it. In the latter half of the show, that stops being the case. Monk does things that you wouldn't be able to do in the earlier seasons of the show, and there's almost a little bit of a flanderization, I'd say, of Monk. He becomes more of a comedic character until the final 2 episodes, which is where he's tracking down Trudy's killer, of course. I also didn't realize how little of the show Sharona was in, because I was watching it on TV with my parents. It was syndicated, so we weren't like watching it through an order, and so I guess I just didn't really realize that how much of the show Natalie was in, and I do prefer Natalie to Sharona. Overall, it is a great show. Like I said, there's just a very noticeable drop in quality writing in the last couple seasons, but Tony Shalhoub, he's still worth the price of admission. Even in the worst seasons, he still show up. Tony Shalhoub, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated actors working in Hollywood. He's consistently good in everything I've seen him in, and they could have easily done this poorly, but I think Tony Shalhoub approaches Monk in a very respectful manner. So Monk, 4 out of 5. This is a movie, I finally got around to seeing this about a month ago. This is a movie that I had had on my list for a very long time, but The Two Popes. The Two Popes, of course, is about Pope Benedict. Let me make sure I get this right. Pope Benedict well, it doesn't say which one here, but Pope Benedict, played by Anthony Hopkins, who of course stepped down and was succeeded by the current Pope, Pope Francis. I remember when that happened, when Pope Benedict stepped down. It was so shocking. I'm not a Catholic, but there's a lot of things about the Catholic Church I do respect, I do admire, I do like. I've been to Catholic Mass before, fairly recently, in fact. So I've always kind of known certain things about the Catholic Church, and when Pope Benedict stepped down, I remember that was a huge shock. Jonathan Pryce in this is playing Pope Francis. I know Pope Francis is quite divisive for some Catholics online. Personally, I quite like Pope Francis. I like a lot of the things that I like his outlook on certain things. As far as popes go, now I don't think this movie is extremely factual. I think they probably took a lot of creative liberties with this movie, but The Two Popes is one of the best written films I've seen in a long time. I know this is about 5 years old at this point, but 90% of the movie is just about two guys talking to each other and trying to understand each other, and it's Anthony Hopkins and like I said already, I already forgot his name, Jonathan Pryce. Two fantastic veteran actors, top of their game. Even if you aren't religious, even if you don't have any interest in religion or the Catholic Church, I think you'd quite enjoy this film. The way that it portrays the two men, and the way that you explore the life of the young Pope Francis and how he became who he is, I thought was very nice. And you have the ending where you have them watching the World Cup together, Argentina versus Germany, which I thought was very, very well done. I give The Two Popes a 4.5 out of 5. Very, very good. Salem's Lot. Now, I've seen the original 1979 television miniseries long ago. I don't really remember it that much. As I've mentioned here multiple times, kind of hard to see. I love vampires. Absolutely love vampires. There's this guy, Chaos Custom Fangs. It's been one of my bucket list purchases for a long time now. He sends you a mold making kit. You take a mold of your teeth, you send it back to him, and he'll make, out of like denture material of enamel, he'll make custom fitted vampire fangs. That's been one of my like bucket list purchases for a long time. I would never take those out. I'm obsessed with vampires. So Salem's Lot. This is the vampire book by Stephen King, and this book is directly responsible for Midnight Mass, very inspired Midnight Mass, which is a television series I absolutely loved. So, I was like, okay, I liked the old TV series. Let's see what happens. But this was just not good. The vampires were good. None of the characters really were that great. As soon as you start getting into the human stuff, I just didn't really like it. The pacing was terrible. The glowing crosses was a very cool effect. I have to give it that, but for me, this is a 2 out of 5. Ben was just a weird and stilted performance. And the power of the vampires is kind of not consistent. At times they're unstoppable, killing machines, and then there's one scene where Ben is being pinned down by 3 vampires at the same time, and he is successfully fending them off instead of being torn to ribbons. So some of the effects were pretty cool. The ending of the movie was pretty good, which is kind of frustrating because the ending was pretty good. And it was, fairly brutal ending, very, a lot of violence there at the end. What I do love is the character of Mark, the little kid, who just, he's like, yeah, F it, this is the reality now, and, just, it's all about killing vampires. He isn't, scared and in distress and running away. Nah, he's ready to pop heads, and that's what I loved that character specifically, but the movie overall, 2 out of 5. Another bucket bucket list movie that's been on the list for a while, just hadn't got around to it. That is Bullet Train, starring Brad Pitt and a whole bunch of other big names. This movie was a lot of fun, super stylized, super just fun movie. You know, this isn't like an award-winning type movie. I mean, obviously it's been out for a while already. It didn't win any awards, but this is a movie. It's very fun. It's fast-paced. It's kinetic. It's kind of what's the guy's name? That director is very Spike Jonze vibes, I would say. You have the two brothers, that duo. Those were my two favorite characters. I can't remember the actors' names at the moment. But you have the guy and his brother who are working together, and just the whole way this movie was shot, the way that everything kind of unfolds is all perfectly executed. The only real issue I have with this movie is the ending. Bring in like the White Death, the Russian mobster guy, bring in the old man. The way it ended, I feel like kind of took away from what made the rest of the movie good. I would have liked the entire movie to just be contained to the characters we start with on the train, instead of bringing this external threat. And then by the time that the White Death, that external threat shows up, you know, like the majority of the ensemble cast is already gone. When that ensemble cast and the way they interacted with each other was kind of what I liked best about the movie. So for that, the movie suffers, in my opinion. The last half an hour or so, I kind of was a little bit iffy on, so I'm gonna give Bullet Train a 3.5 out of 5, but it's still a very fun movie, so I'd give it a watch if it's available streaming in your area. The King Died. This is a movie I've been interested in. I've heard about it a few months back. Finally got my hands on The King Died. This is an independent Canadian film. It was filmed in rural Newfoundland, and I absolutely love this. This also has Midnight Mass vibes. I mean, you have the rural island, a very insular community of all those trappings there of Midnight Mass. Again, a series that I absolutely love. And so you have this, starts off, you have a woman who suffers a miscarriage. As that's happening, this boat crashes up against the shore of a rural Newfoundland island, and there's a baby inside. Cut to 10 years later, it turns out that this little baby is a girl that they've named Isla, who has been adopted by the mayor of the town and his wife, and she has the ability to heal people. Their dementia-ridden mother, her dementia is now healed. People's wounds, illnesses, poisons, anything, they come to her just being in her presence, and they're healed. And there's even a note that the parents, the people who adopted her, they have not basically aged a day. So the other islanders, they have aged because they don't live with her. Being in her presence cures them of things, but because they live with her, they haven't aged at all. And, you know, over the course of the movie, at one point she loses her powers, and you see the way that completely just destroys this community. People turn against each other, and because they've had this easy go-to thing, they've basically completely forgotten how to take care of themselves. So there's a lot of allegories here, societal allegories about the dangers probably present in our society today. I think some religious allegories, some Christian religious allegories can definitely be read into this. The exploitation of religion, as in, I'm not going to dive into all that, but, there's a lot here, and this is called a horror film. It's not really a horror film per se. I would say it's sort of maybe a thriller or something like that, but this is very, very, very good. This is a movie that is gonna grip you from beginning to end. It's a great length. I think it's like a $1.48 in length, which is like perfect for this movie. You have a really good cast, but not a star-studded cast, just a really good cast overall. There's really only one performance in this movie I didn't like, but overall this was a diamond in the rough for me. I kind of heard about it out of nowhere, got it on a whim, and it's one of the best movies I've seen in a very, very long time. So if you've seen none of the movies on this list and you only going to watch one, definitely check out The King Died. Especially with it being an independent Canadian film, support those independent filmmakers. And finally, I just watched this about an hour before I started recording this video, and that is Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F. I've been playing Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, so I wanted to watch a Dragon Ball movie, and I had watched Battle of the Gods recently, and I'd watched Dragon Ball Super Broly recently, and I really liked both of those, but I haven't seen Resurrection F since it came out, and I was a little bit disappointed in this one. Actually, I remember liking it when it came out, but going back and watching it again after seeing Battle of the Gods and Super Broly, this is the weakest of those three movies. Now, I haven't seen, excuse me, I don't know if I gave a rating to The King Died. The King Died is a 4.5 out of 5. 4.5 out of 5. Anyways, I haven't seen Dragon Ball Super Heroes, which is the latest of the Dragon Ball films, so I can't judge it against that one, but this was the weakest of the three recent films I've seen in the Dragon Ball franchise. Just because, I don't know, it didn't really feel like there was that much tension throughout. Did you guys, okay, I'm tripping. There wasn't that much tension throughout. It felt like we spent too much time with non-important characters, especially in the beginning of the movie. And then once the action started, I'm comparing it to Broly, where Goku and Vegeta are severely outclassed. And even as Gogeta, like if it isn't for the Dragon Ball, Broly's gonna keep coming at them. And then compared to Battle of the Gods, where Beerus is literally unstoppable, he's the god of destruction, and it takes him being willing to spare the planet to, to have things end well. Like, Goku and Vegeta would not be able to beat Broly if Broly kept going. Likely they might be able to, but, and Beerus could have killed everybody and no one would have done anything about it. This movie, comparatively, the stakes weren't as big, and overall, 2.5 out of 5. So anyways, guys, that's just some things I've been watching recently. The King Died and The Two Popes. Easily the two best things I've watched recently. Two really, really good movies. But let me know if you've seen anything lately that you've really enjoyed. And maybe if I haven't seen it, I will check it out and talk about it in another video a couple months from now. Anyways, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for content just like this almost every single day. Till next time, guys.